The first immigration-related cases since the Trump administration's deportation crackdown are underway here in Arizona. The administration has said that only those who pose a public safety threat will be targeted, but that's not necessarily the case, according to reports by the Arizona Republic. Those reports filed by the Republic's Richard Ruelas, who joins us right now. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
All right, so the claim was only the worst of the worst, we're going after them first. Is that, you're saying that's not necessarily happening?
Well, from what we've seen,
yes.
I mean, we didn't know what to expect when they started coming in. We didn't know if there was going to be very public raids or demonstrations. What it ended up being, it looks like, is individual stops, homes, and streets. And so we thought a good place to look is the initial appearance docket of federal court. And so we just started looking at those cases coming through.
I was going to ask, what set you off on this? Were you hearing reports? What got this started?
No, I think we just didn't see like the mass deportation. We didn't see the mass raids that we thought we'd see or the shows of force. So figuring if there is the worst of the worst being arrested, they have to go to criminal court. And so we're going to be in criminal court to just see who comes in.
And people coming in aren't always the worst of the worst, or you wouldn't think.
Well, so far, from the days we saw, it seemed like the biggest felony that they were being, for the migrant crimes, the biggest felony was re-entry of a deported alien.
Yes.
If you get deported and re-enter the country, that's a felony.
Yeah, I saw that you had some were picked up due to old tips. These were old cases, right?
Yeah, one guy tried to buy a gun, probably not the best idea if you're not a legal resident.
No.
Tried to buy a gun 3 years ago, and that tipped off federal authorities. For some reason, they didn't act on that tip until the new Trump administration. There was a new phrase in some of the arresting documents, some of the charging documents, called a non-biometric referral.
I was going to ask you, what does that mean?
Defense attorneys who have been prowling these courthouses for years didn't know what it meant. One kind of pantomimed, I think it's like a phone to his ear, like these are tips. People are calling in the tip line and ICE could be acting on it. ICE won't tell us what this new technique is, but the defense attorneys who've been around these cases say it's got to be someone just calling the tip line and saying, I believe this person is here illegally and ICE is going to get them.
Is it mostly ICE? We have Border Patrol. Who's making the arrests?
There is Homeland Security, HSI, ICE, and Border Patrol. And caught up in these are still, like Border Patrol, there's still eagle-eyed agents out there who are seeing a suspicious car and pulling someone out of a trunk. There's still people who are seeing, there's cases that happen to culminate in January that are months or years old of trying to infiltrate human smuggling or drug trafficking investigation. That's still happening, but caught up in there, added on to those cases are people who are being brought in because they are found in the country after a deportation.
Surveillance used quite often here, or what'd you see? What'd you hear, at least from the court here?
Yeah, at least in 15 cases, there was mention in the charging documents of surveillance and a traffic stop, meaning we know where this person generally is, and to get them in our custody safely, just as ICE practice, from what I understand from talking to Daniel Gonzalez and other reporters who follow this for longer. You follow someone and find a safe spot to do it, but that's a lot of work to surveil someone and then make a traffic stop.
So illegal entry, I believe, is a misdemeanor, correct?
Correct.
But it's the re-entry that becomes a felony.
It's typically handled as a misdemeanor because if you're going to say someone is here illegally or entered illegally, to prove it in criminal court, you would have a huge bar. But once they're deported and they're back in the country, that's treated as a felony.
Did you see, from the cases that you saw and you sat there and watched, was it mostly re-entry? Was it mostly first time? What would you see?
There was mostly re-entry charged as felonies. There were a couple people who were picked up in the desert and charged with illegal entry. Some of them were largely based on their own word. It's not like the agent saw them walk across.
Right.
They told the agent, sometimes post Miranda, yes, I walked across the desert.
What happens to these people?
They are going to be, for the most part, on what's called a fast track. If these cases all went to trial with defense attorneys and hearings, they'd gum up the works. So instead, the immigration court will put them on a fast track, give them a very good deal, and they'll likely be back deported within weeks, months.
And this is both misdemeanor and felony?
Yeah, the felony too. You're given a fast track, so your sentence gets reduced to a very low level, and it induces you to take a plea and leave the country.
Did you happen to talk, and I think you did, to families of those people that were picked up and arrested?
Very few. To get into court, you have to show a state ID. So if you have a family that doesn't have documents, they can't go in to see you. But we did. One man had 2 rows of family in for this, 10-minute hearing. I would hope that would happen to me if I ever had an initial appearance. And the family didn't want to give me their name, but they all seemed very much in support of him. And I can't help but think, once that person is deported, there's a gravitational pull for either the family to join him in Mexico or for him to come back to his family.
Yeah. Are these arrests increasing? Do you know?
It's hard to tell the pace. From what we can tell, I'm still going to court. The day after the holiday, there were 15 cases on the docket.
Interesting.
But it's the pace seems to wax and wane as the week goes on. It'll be interesting to see as we keep following it, whether there's going to be more tips, more old investigations that they didn't quite button up, and whether these continue or whether they're going to sort of tamp down.
And whether the folks that people really want to see in there, the worst of the worst, are there.
Right. It could be that I think the theory before was that the Biden administration was letting criminals walk around on the streets, and it's just a matter of finding them. So if that theory still holds, there's a chance that there's going to be criminals, the true public safety threats are there. They're not there yet.
Yeah, they're going to be found. Richard Ruelas again, Arizona Republic, azcentral.com. Great reporting. Good to have you here.
Thank you.